Welcome to Girls Who Talk Goals. I'm Christy.
I'm Natalie.
And I'm Emilie.
We are creating an empowering community where we inspire each other to step out of our comfort zones
and fill each other's cups one conversation at a time.
We're all just trying to figure out life, so let's go on this journey together.
Let's jump into today's episode.
Cheers! We are back
We're
with
back.
our soul sister, Emilie.
I felt a little left out not being in the last one, but that's okay. You guys did good.
We can never do that again without you because we're a trio that must stick together.
I was watching, though, and I'm like, wow, they are amazing. They are so good.
Thank you. It wasn't the same.
No, it was
we
not.
We had some trials and tribulations while you were gone.
Well, we do even when I'm here, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So, give us a little recap. Bali Princess.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
I love the new title. I feel like a new woman, honestly. I feel like this beam of light.
Your frequency. You can just feel it.
Yeah, you can see it. Like you walked in and you're just radiating. You're radiating right now to like positive energy, so happy.
Less stress.
Yes, even though
You just feel it and it rubs off.
Yes. Even though I still came home to quite a bit of stress, but I just feel like now I can handle it better and differently with a different mindset. So I love that. But we're going to get into that and how you guys can practice that at home and the tools that we learned. And I went there to get a lot of value and I came back with a lot of it. I have my whole manual with me that we did on the retreat, and it's like 85 pages. So we're not going to go through the whole thing, but
another episode.
But even though you should, if you ever get the chance to go on the retreat, you should.
Yeah. We'll leave the info down below.
Yes.
Of where it was and who to follow and whatnot. We'll tag them.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so excited because Emilie was gone and I just was like seeing her stuff on her story, and then like I was following the Mindspo page on Instagram and I was like, okay, I'm booking a trip. So I'm going in April. That's all it took.
I didn't know whether or not to say it because I didn't know if you were like wanting to tell.
I know, me either.
Yeah, now all three of us will have officially gone on
all
the
the
same
tools.
experience.
Yeah.
Yes. All the tools and the mindset, and we're all going to be on the same, even though we already are on the same frequency, but we're going to just really
hone in.
Yes.
Get that higher level altogether. And I am so freaking excited. Yes. I didn't even have to have a conversation with Emilie. I could just see her story, see her like beaming, and I was like, say less. I'm doing it.
I was actually told, like I had some people respond to like my stories or like text me, and they were like, you look so happy there.
You
like,
did.
In your photos.
It was genuine. You can feel it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Even through a photo.
Yeah. And I love that because honestly, I've never been on a trip that I've been so calm and so at peace. Like, even though this was my first solo trip and being so far away, even from the time I was dropped off at the airport with my parents all the way to the end of the trip, there was one time where I had a little bit of anxiety. But other than that, I was so calm and at peace, and even work was just so calm, and like I just wasn't bothered. And I think the universe knew, like,
she needs this.
She needs this because the last 6 months has just been really crazy in my life. And so I've been looking forward to this for a really long time, and it was the transformation that I needed.
Yeah.
But
how do you feel now that you can reflect on it? How do you feel going into a situation where nobody knows you, anything about you, your family, your job, like truly you coming off as your true self? Like, do you feel like you introduce yourself the same way as you do around here? Or like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Or do you feel like it was a higher level or more confidence? Did you notice any difference in the way you were acting throughout it, or no?
I did, because I feel like whenever you grow up, in your hometown, all your people that you know, your friends that you're with, they've all got some sort of image of you or some bias on you. And then you're meeting these people who they have no idea who you are until they stalk you on your Instagram. And then they get a little bit of an idea.
But it's common.
Yeah. But yeah, they have no idea who you are. And so technically you can present yourself however you want. And so it's like you only want to show your best qualities, and then it's like you kind of decide like who you want to be. And then I feel like that's why it's so transformational, because then you come back as that person too. And you just kind of like let go of like any biases or any like nobody knows of like, oh, she did this, or like, oh, she went through this, like people from your hometown. And it's so refreshing. But it's also very wholesome, because I feel like your best qualities come out too.
I agree. Well, and especially when you're meeting other people who are also there for a similar reason. It's not just random people. Like, they are random people, but they all chose that specific retreat for a reason, hopefully for personal development or to level up their frequency. So it's kind of like you're going into it not maybe as scared, because they're also looking for the same.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we all had something in common, but it was also scary because everyone's from all over the world. Like, there were girls from Australia, from Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark. I mean, there were a couple from the US, but just everywhere. And that's what's so cool. But yet we all had something in common. And that's what I kind of took away from it too, is everyone was coming there for, yes, they were all different reasons, but a lot of them were the same. And it was almost refreshing in a way to know that like the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and that we all deal with the same shit, basically.
That's beautiful.
Amen. The world is small.
It is.
It kind of puts it into perspective of how
Truly.
small the world is.
Yeah. And you talking about like who you were there, like that's always been within you, you know, but then you unlock it more and figure out like who you truly are.
Yes, especially because we did a whole like ceremony on how, so you would sit and you would stare into another girl's eyes for a minute, and it sounds really awkward, honestly. But you would like rotate, you did like 10 different people, and you would sit and stare into their eyes for a minute. And this was like later on in the week when you kind of knew people. But then after a minute, you had their journal and you wrote. You had a minute to write what you saw in their eyes. And it's crazy because like the best parts of you that you kind of ignore on a daily basis, because you know everyone's so negative about themselves. Like they see all of that in you. And so it almost like solidifies that. And it's crazy because it's also anonymous. So like you don't know, because like they write in different parts, and so you don't know who wrote what, but it's just very refreshing because it's like the best parts of you are on display, and that's what also like solidifies who you are by yourself.
Oh,
I love it.
My God.
And it's also crazy how probably they were all similar. They all said similar attributes.
Yes.
That it's like it is coming across that way because a lot of people are saying it.
Yes, they were.
I love it.
It's so genuine. And honestly too, so the whole premise of it was the fact that we don't look people in the eye, and we don't truly like look at people anymore.
It's down at a screen.
It is. And you just kind of avoid eye contact. But like when you truly look at someone, like some of the girls I was looking at, it's like I could like feel like their pain and like anguish and like what they like their hurt. But then I could also see like almost like their soul and like how beautiful they are and like the hope and like the strength that they have. And it's just, it was honestly really emotional.
Oh,
I was going to say, that just makes me want to like cry saying that, because I'm thinking of that, and just that's a whole moment. Wow.
I bet it is very emotional because you said that was later in the week. So you're already meditating every day. You're already doing the breath work and you're doing the things. And then, because don't they say if you're at a higher level of frequency, then you can see like the auras and you're like deeper in tune with like empathy? Is it empathy?
Yeah.
Or just like...
We did that too, where you stare at the person again for like 60 seconds and then you paint what their aura looks like.
Aww. I love that. I've never heard of that.
It was crazy. It was just crazy because I feel like I know what mine looks like, and then when other people like see it too, and you could draw anything you want, like what, you know, use whatever colors or whatever shapes and it's insane.
Do you have it?
I have photos.
Okay.
Yeah.
You definitely have to share those.
Yeah.
We'll put them on the
Yes.
story too.
Yeah. So they're all a little different, but they all kind of have the same
Tone.
yes.
And just knowing you, like you're a very warm person and like very peaceful. And I feel like people sense like your energy when they're around you and they can feel those things. And that's probably why you have a lot of really good friendships too, is because like you bring that and it just feeds on others. And it's such a great quality.
I love
I
that.
agree.
Thank you.
You can add that to your notebook.
Write it down.
Do you want to write it? You want to write in my notebook? But a lot of girls, a lot of girls, so we kind of have a group chat, and a lot of them went home and sent pictures of them like posting this up like on their wall, because
That's a great idea.
Yeah, just to remind yourself every day because whenever you enter the real world again, it's hard to remember those things when you have the everyday stress, and you're kind of in a bubble when you're there because, you know, we're at like a resort and you're allowed to leave during the day between certain times, but a lot of people just stay and like it's like stay in our circle and keep the energy and some days they encourage you to stay and not mess with your energy, like the stress of like traffic or whatever. So you're just kind of in a bubble the whole time, and it's kind of nice because I feel like you need to in order to heal. And that's kind of what I talked about too in one of the journal entries that I wrote, is that it's hard to go through like a healing transformation when you're at home, because I feel like we don't give ourselves the time to sit and like think about it and actually like be in tune with ourselves, because it's hard to detach from everyday life and our work, and you know, some people have kids, and so I feel like going and taking a week in a place that you don't know with people that you don't know, it's so refreshing, but also like you can just so be yourself.
I agree.
And I feel like that's where the transformation comes into.
And it's so nice to do that, like you said, just away, and that's the biggest thing. And maybe you have tips, and we'll get into those, I guess, of how to practice it day to day to keep your vibration up. Because as soon as you get home, and in my experience as well, the closer we got, because I picked her up at the airport, the closer we got to home, it's like the level goes down because then you're going to be forced to be, you know, into the day-to-day reality and have to confront all of the things that you were dealing with. And now it's like true. Now you have to actually deal with those things as a new version of yourself, which is so freaking hard to keep that level up.
I just want to say, when we got off the interstate pulling into Mattoon, I looked at her and I started crying.
I don't want to do this.
I was like, I don't want to be back. I don't want to go back to Mattoon. But I mean, you're right. But honestly, too, whenever you learn these tools, it's like you go back and face these things with so much like courage and so much like peace and light. Something that they taught us, or that we talked a lot about, was that when you go through this journey and you essentially like level up and you're like on a higher energy level, and you're going to lose people because people, one, they're not going to understand it or agree with it, of maybe who you are now. And a lot of girls would talk to me about that, and they were like, you know, I'm really struggling with that, like going home and knowing that like I'm going to lose people. But in my eyes too, I've already made so much peace with that, because in my eyes, whenever you lose those people, you make room for more of those new people who are on your level to come in. And that's amazing, because why would you want to keep the people around who are going to drag you down?
I agree.
But also, you know, you can love them from a distance. That doesn't mean they can't ever be in your life again, but sometimes you have to keep people at an arm's length away to be able to be your best self without having them drag you down.
I think that's healthiest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's especially true for like family too, because you want them in your life. But when you come back from something like that, if you go immediately back to people who, you know, they're here and you are up here now, that can really drag you down. So keeping the healthy distance there. I feel like that's one of the hardest relationships to maintain that distance, because they're your family, but they can drag you down.
100%.
I agree.
The two facilitators that we had at the retreat, they both talked about their struggles with their parents and how essentially they went on this healing journey and they were just more emotionally mature than their parents. And so they went through periods of time where, you know, they didn't talk to their parents, or now they've kind of established a relationship to where like they're not fully present in their lives because they just can't they just can't like work it out essentially, or they can't agree. But they know that, and it's spoken.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like hidden and buried, and I don't know. It's just out in the open.
When
it's so much better.
Yeah, when you say it's spoken, like they've addressed that with that family member.
Wow.
Yes. So one of the things that we talked about was being vulnerable with people, and how a lot of times nowadays we don't want to be vulnerable with people because then that looks like a weakness. But if you come to somebody with basically open arms, like palms up, showing like your heart on your sleeve, just saying like, can I be vulnerable with you? Like, this is how you made me feel. Like, I'm really struggling with this. Like, can we talk about this? Then they're less likely to be like, no, or, like shut you down. Like, they're just more willing. So that was one kind of tactic that they taught us. So yeah, I mean, it's hard, but it's like less confrontation too, but more just, can we have a discussion about it?
Yeah.
Which is
And
hard.
Very hard.
It's a lot easier just to be silent.
It's very hard,
So,
but
I get it.
I think one of the biggest takeaways that I had on this retreat was I don't like confrontation, but also in turn that hurts me because I carry it with me. And something that I'm going to implement too is that, just having that conversation, because like I said, the biggest takeaway that I had is I want to protect my peace at all costs. And so it's not my responsibility to carry that with me anymore. And so going to those people, whether it's having a conversation, writing a letter, something, but essentially just releasing it and being like, this is what it is. This is how I feel. Basically, like, I'm giving this to you and choosing how you want to react and how you want to proceed.
I think it's really healthy for you to do that.
Yeah.
A weight lift off your shoulders.
It is, because you can't vibrate at a high frequency with all that stuff weighing you down.
Yeah, I love it.
You just have to let it go.
Yeah, and that should be like the obvious, thing to do, but some things are just too hard or too uncomfortable that we just don't do them. And like you said, then you neglect like how you feel internally, and then it just hurts you long term. So I love that.
Well, that's why I think writing a letter too is an option, because then maybe you want to talk to somebody who won't listen, or they walk away or something. So I think writing a letter and leaving them to sit with it, I think that's another powerful tool.
They even say writing a letter and not even giving it to them, but like writing things down to get your feelings out is also, like, say you're not in a place for them to read it or whatever, it still gets your emotions out to where it's like released from you in some sense.
Right, a step in the right direction, even if it's not, the full steps forward.
Yeah. Should we go into some practical things that you learned and some tips and tricks for people to do at home?
Yes. So in our little manual, they gave a list of things that you should do, basically to take home with you, because we talked a lot about how, like, you are very much in a bubble on this trip, and that when you go home, you have the stressors, and it's just going to be harder to keep up that energy. And so they gave a list of about 10 different things that you can do just to really keep up that vibration. And so honestly, one of the top things that they suggest is meditating. And that was something that we did every single day, sometimes twice a day. And it's so interesting because there's so many different types of meditation, and it depends on like if you're a visual person or just depending on the day too. Some days it's harder than others, but every day we would do a 22 minute meditation, and it was interesting because they would tell you to visualize a really heavy box with a lid, and then they're like, all the things that are floating around in your mind, you need to put them in the box, put the lid on, and then walk away. And then that's what I would constantly visualize the entire time. And then it takes you through like breathing work too. And they have you do like a little mantra too as you're breathing. So when you breathe in, you say sum. And then when you breathe out, you say sa. And that way you're almost like grounding yourself too, and not letting like your thoughts fly around because you're focusing on saying that the whole time, that you kind of slip away into your meditation.
Have you done that since you've been back?
No, honestly, my sleep schedule. Well, I've only been back for
2 days
2 days.
ish.
That's
yeah.
fair.
So, but my plan was to try and get my sleep schedule back on track this weekend, and then Monday, I actually told Natalie I'm going to keep this up, and at least 3 times a week I'm going to do this. And they say it's best to do it as soon as you wake up in the morning, because your brain waves are still in a lower frequency, and it's just better and easier to do it, and then it starts your day off really well. And so I'm going to do that. But they also said, because what's interesting is it's easy to kind of be like, yeah, okay, you know, a bunch of mumbo jumbo like witchcraft, but it's so much science like backs this up, and that's what really caught my eye too, and made it real to me. But they said that 20 minutes of meditation is equivalent to like 4 hours of deep sleep for your brain, like your REM sleep.
Oh, wow.
I
That's
know,
a lot.
and so like that's like the cleansing portion whenever you're sleeping. And so it's just very cleansing for your mind to do that. And so 20 minutes a day, like that's all that you need. Obviously, like it'd be nice to build it up, but yeah, it's just very powerful.
Did you feel like when you were doing that every day that like you were less like droggy throughout the day because you had started your day that way and like you had a clearer mind for the full day?
I feel like, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And
I
I
need
feel
to get
like,
back on it.
yes.
5 minutes. I need to start 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I have been doing YouTube videos, like positive talking, positive affirmations while I'm getting ready. So at least it's like, and it does help. It totally shifts my mood. If I'm thinking like ill thoughts or something, it really helps. But it's not like I'm actually meditating.
Right. But it's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction. Yeah.
So they were saying how one of our facilitators, she writes on her mirror like every single day her affirmations.
Cute.
And then like before she gets ready, and then as she's getting ready, she like sits there and looks at them. Or anytime she goes to the bathroom, you know, she sees them.
I love that.
That's
There's
a great
just
idea.
so many different ways that you can do it. But with meditating too, it's so interesting because everyone has a different experience with it. But after like whenever I'm like really into it, after a few minutes, I feel like I almost like can't feel my body anymore. And then I feel like I'm like floating outside my body. And it's such a cool experience that everyone just needs to try it.
Wow.
It's so like liberating and light and free.
I love that.
I think it's amazing.
It is.
It's so hard to
powerful.
keep up with it, but I do know it's super beneficial. So I really need to get back on that train.
Yeah. One other really interesting fact that they gave us, which this isn't, I don't remember the details, but basically they said that they took a group of meditators to, it was somewhere like Chicago with like a high crime rate, and had them meditate. And the month following that, the crime rate dropped by 25%. And they were talking about how when you meditate, it changes the frequency of people around you, even if they're not meditating. So even if like you lived at home with your family and you're the only one meditating, it naturally like raises the frequency of everyone else.
I believe it. Honestly, I
I
think
do
everything is energy. Everything is frequency and
It is.
vibration. I think it's so true.
Yeah.
That is so true because the minute you walked through the door, I feel like I could just feel it. You guys probably haven't seen it yet, but I put something on my Instagram story about the two of you and how much I just love you and just how great you are, because I felt that as soon as you walked through the door. And like I haven't
love that.
meditated, but I could just feel it.
I love that, but also I feel like that's how like when we all like got together for the first time. I think you were out of the room when we were talking about this earlier, but how just whenever you meet people who are on the same level as you, you just feel that connection. And that was me with like meeting all these other girls. There were like 27 or 28 other girls at this retreat, and like you could just feel it whenever you connect with somebody.
It's an
And
instant bond.
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah. You can't even, I don't even know. You can't even explain it.
No, it's hard to find in everyday life, but
Yeah.
anyway, so meditating is one of the biggest things I think that you could do, but they also suggest keeping an evidence journal. And so this is kind of like the whole looking into each other's eyes and writing down like what you see. But basically anytime like someone says anything like nice about you or anything that like reminds you of like, oh yes, like I am that person, like you need to write it down or like screenshot it and keep it all in one journal. So then whenever you are feeling like down, that you go reflect and know that like there's facts, like other people see this, like I am this person.
That's sweet.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
And keeping that as a separate journal. They said, do not keep your journal of like, oh, like, you know, I hate my life. Like, my life sucks. And then the next day you're like, I love my life. They said to keep it separate because keep the energy separate.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And with that, because I do know another one is scripting, which,
huge.
yeah, huge. Do you want to give us a little background on what scripting is?
Yes. So that was actually one of my favorite activities.
I agree.
And it had to do with like the present moment. And so one of the activities was you looked at your life from a year from now and you were writing everything that was happening. But it's the verbiage that you use to, like, I am doing this, and you're basically scripting out your whole life. And
In that present moment
yes,
of your future self.
Yes. And when I tell you, I could have written for like an hour or two straight. It was so amazing because you really get in it and like you feel like you are that person. And they were like, there's no limits, just like, I don't know, write your dream life.
Yeah.
And so that's
you are
what you
scripting
do.
your dream life
You
in
are.
real time. And they say to be as detailed as possible.
Yes.
And it's just a form of manifestation, which we can get into that as well.
Yes.
But they say to be as detailed as possible, not fantasy land though, because your brain will call BS.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be like realistic, but say exactly what you want and to look at it, you know, a year from now or when that time comes. And it's amazing how much comes true. Because now, like if you are scripting that and you're feeling those emotions and you're feeling like, okay, this is what I'm doing, you're now leveling up to that version of yourself, and then you sync. I don't even know how to explain that.
Well, they say that your brain doesn't know the difference between like real and fake, essentially. So like whenever you step into that and you feel like you are that person and you embody that person, then your brain basically levels up.
Yeah, syncs with it.
Yes,
because
it
now
does.
it attracts that.
It does.
Yes.
And it's ready for that.
Yes.
I have a question too. Did it take you like a while to figure out what you wanted to write, or like you were already in that headspace that it just came pretty like natural and you just started going because you felt it?
It came so fast.
Okay. I love that.
You're like, I already know.
I knew immediately. I just started writing so fast. And that's the thing too, because I feel like fear holds us back so much, because some of the things that I wrote, they scare me, you know, to go do those things. It's scary, but also if you keep thinking about it and you keep coming back to it, but the only thing that's holding you back is fear, then you know that you're meant to do it. But also, like, you can't let fear hold you back because life is so short. And also my biggest fear is being, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 and being like, man, I wish I would have done that.
Regret.
Yes. I'm so scared of that because of fear. So yeah, that's why whenever I was doing that exercise, I realized what I really wanted, because it just came out so fast.
I love it.
It's so powerful.
That is just amazing.
Yes.
I have no other words.
I think everybody should try it. Just with no fear, with no exceptions, no hesitation. Just write your dream life.
It's also very in line with the law of attraction and manifestation in general. I have my notes from when I went years ago. And so I had, specifically for the law of attraction, idealization, letting your mind daydream is fun. Instead of just scrolling, daydream about what you want.
Yeah.
And then visualization is huge, creating a blueprint for your future. Don't be vague, be specific. Detachment, you want to embody the feeling. You want to detach yourself from what you want as if you already have it. People will say, fake it till you make it. It's more than that. Or people use, oh, I'm manifesting this, like as in, oh, it's one of my goals. That's not the correct way to use manifestation or law of attraction. You fully have to embody it because you have to be on that energy level.
You have to fully believe that you can achieve it.
That
and
you
that you
already
already
have
have.
it. Yes.
Yes.
Like if you already are this person, what does this person think day to day? What does this person do? What does this person wear? How do they talk? What do they eat? Like literally every single thing, you already have to embody it, and then you are naturally going to become that person because you already think you are. And it's kind of like a delulu, a little bit.
No, but that's what we talked about a lot during this whole week retreat, because it is almost like being delusional. But
Yeah.
it's like what we talk about. Like, why would you not be delusional? Why would you not think like, yeah, I can do this, no problem? That's the whole premise of manifesting is like, yeah, I can do that, like, no problem.
Yes.
Because if you have those limiting beliefs and those negative thoughts, then those are going to hold you back, and you attract those negative just vibes.
Yep.
And that's why you can't. And that's why verbiage is so big too. Like, we were talking about, like, there was one girl who was like, oh, you know, I'll never be able to afford that. And we're like, no, like, you cannot say that. You say, just not now. I think taking action is like the biggest tip that people need to hear, because I think when people think about manifesting, they think people just sit there like, yeah, I'm gonna win the lottery. It's like an eat, pray, love.
Yeah.
Whenever, you know, the guy goes to the statue every day and he's like, please, please, please let me win the lottery. And then eventually the statue's like, go buy a ticket.
Yes.
Like, go buy a lottery ticket. It's like you have to take action or else nothing's going to happen. It's like, oh, I want to move to another country. But you have to buy a plane ticket.
But you have to actually
go
do
over
it.
there. You know, you can't just sit and it's not just
Yeah.
going to magically happen. You have to do something about it too.
I have the universe isn't going to give you more until you're grateful for what you already have, which is huge, being grateful.
That's a big one, and that was a lot that we talked about too. Is just paying mind to where you come from, what you've already been through, and giving yourself a pat on the back for it, really. Be like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
And now I'm ready for more.
For practical manifestation, like I said, what I've been doing instead of meditating every morning, I've been listening to the YouTube videos of like 15-minute little positive affirmations just to get you in the right headspace. Because if you're in a negative headspace, if you're just going through the day-to-day life and the day-to-day grind but not being intentional, then that totally affects your future. There's so many little things. I don't even know.
There is. And I want to read this part about visualization
Yeah.
that's in this manual, because I think it really explains it well. But it says, visualization is a tool used by elite athletes and high performers worldwide to envision their success and goals before they happen. Our body can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. You can be anything or anyone inside of your own mind. Use the power of visualization to rehearse things you want to attract into your life mentally.
I love it.
Which I think is huge, because like what we were just talking about, like your brain cannot distinguish the difference, because whenever you think about it and you put yourself in there and you feel the emotions and you think about all the senses too, like your brain just can't decipher the difference. So
Visualize yourself winning. Visualize yourself doing that speech and getting a round of applause. Yeah, I love that so much.
I do too. I think that athletes do that too. I remember like reading
Tony Robbins, I think.
Yeah, or watching a
read something about
video
that.
on like Michael Jordan. I feel like was somebody who did that and is very into that, and it's so true.
they mentioned that of like, I don't know if they said Michael Jordan, but there was like some basketball player who would imagine themselves doing free throws or 3-pointers or something, and they were more likely to do it or to actually like make the goal.
Actually, my volleyball coach for club when I was in high school, and he coached at like U of I and Nebraska, and he like really, really harped on that. He was like, you need to write out, Christy, like, I'm going to get a kill because I'm going to hit a ball down the line. I'm going to serve and it's going to be an ace, and like do all of these things. And they have to be affirmations that you wake up and do every single day. And like, I totally regret not honing in on that and really like being all in and doing it, because now 7 years later, I really realize the impact of what that could have done. But just a missed opportunity, I guess, that I have to do with something else now.
You just weren't meant to embody it until now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That was, what were we just saying before we started the podcast? We had 2 tips, because I was mentioning to you guys, you are responsible for the energy you bring into the room. And a little tip and trick that they mentioned was using doorways as a portal to like hone in on your higher self. If I'm entering this boardroom, I'm entering this room as a confident version of myself. No matter if I'm scared, no matter if I'm nervous, I am this person. Or like using showers as a way to cleanse yourself. Okay, I'm feeling bad. My day sucked. I'm using this shower to shower off all the negative energy. I'm going out of my shower, like out of my bathroom as a new person. And then you were also just talking about detaching yourself. What were we saying?
Yes. Well, real quick about the whole, what you were just talking about.
Mhm.
Every time that we would talk about meditation, they would say, go to that person, place, or thing that you were grateful for. And every single time I would envision my house, and I would just put it on like this sacred, like peaceful place, and to where like no bad energy is allowed, because that is like my space, and I'm so grateful for it, even though I haven't even moved in yet.
Yeah,
But
no, I love it.
I am so, that's my peace. And then also they said, go to that person, place, or thing that you're thankful for. And I would literally envision all of the people in my life that I am thankful for. And it's like everyone was holding a net. Like everyone had like, I don't know, this rope almost. And I was like in the middle of it. And almost like everyone was like holding me up. That like everyone is just, that's tied to my life that I'm so thankful for.
Interesting.
Because I'm a very visual person too. And so I would just, I don't know, I would imagine that every single time. And it was very powerful. I would go through like every person's face too.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I love
Wow.
that.
Yeah. It was, I don't know. So I wanted to share that because, yeah, being visual, it can really, if you are a visual person, it can really solidify it. But as far as detaching, so they had us, another activity that we did, they had us write our story, the story of our life from a third person perspective, because it has you detach from that. So like all the traumas or like bad things that you've been through, we identify with it and you're like, yeah, that's my story. That's who I am. But the activity and the premise of it was letting go of that story. You're like, that's not who I am anymore. And so I would say like
Wow.
Emily was born in 1999. She went through this at this age. She, she thinks this way. And that way you're looking at it from another perspective and you don't identify with it anymore. You're just looking at it and you're like, wow, like that's sad. But then you go on to create like a new story.
I think
And
that is huge.
It's so powerful. And then to top it off, so we wrote that story and they didn't tell us that they were going to partner us up after that randomly. And you had 7 minutes to look at another person and read your story, and you still had to say it in a third person perspective. And the other person, they couldn't nod, they couldn't say anything. They just had to stare at you in the eye. And
What?
it's like, because also nowadays I feel like whenever you talk with somebody, people are like kind of on their phone and they're not fully present and listening. And so to tell your story from another perspective to somebody who is giving you their fully undivided attention.
That's scary. I love it.
It was very vulnerable, but it was so powerful.
And I feel like that is life-changing too, because when somebody's talking to you too, like sometimes you're not fully in it and listening to what they're saying because you're already thinking of what your response is going to be.
Yeah.
So that's like also the best part of that.
Yeah. It was also very hard on the receiving end, because I know me, like I am a very active listener. So when someone's talking, I'm like nodding, like, yeah, like I am listening, because that's important to me. Like I like when people, I know they're listening to me. It's just very important to me. And so it was really difficult just watching them. And obviously like everyone cried. And so like you wanted to like reach out to them or like, just tell like, I'm here. But then like I would start crying, and like that's how you'd almost communicate. I feel for you, and like I'm here. I'm
Wait, so
listening.
then what would happen at the end?
Nothing. You couldn't say anything. You stood up and you like would hug, and then you'd switch places.
Wow.
And you'd sit down and you had 7 minutes to tell your story.
Oh my gosh.
That's nuts.
But it's also, I like that they didn't tell us of like, you're going to read this to somebody, because you were true and authentic and you wrote your
You
story.
wouldn't have written the
No.
same things.
No.
Or in detail maybe.
Because
I'm sure when they said that, you were like, oh
Yeah.
boy.
everyone was
Yeah.
like, oh.
Oh no.
So yeah, y'all didn't mention that.
Yeah, that's so true.
But it was, I know, and they also said too, they were like, whatever like your partner says, like you take that with you to the grave. Like you don't ever repeat it. You can talk with them afterwards. Like me and my partner were the only ones that stayed up there, and we just kept talking and like kept crying to each other. But I know my partner, she was like, I've never like said these words out loud ever.
Aw.
And so yeah. But it was just so transformational, just to
Yeah.
detach from your story and be like, no, that's not who I am. Like that doesn't define me. Whatever happened to you in life, that's not your personality. It's just something that simply happened. and you detach from it and you move
Well, and
on.
I think detaching in general is a good way to deal with situations. To reflect, I think reflection is the same kind of as detaching, because if
Yes.
you're able to reflect later on and learn a lesson from it, you get better perspective.
Mm-hmm.
To put yourself, like, to look at it from an outside point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get better reflection on it of, like, what you should do if you're needing help.
Right. I feel like it's something you can easily do at home if you wanted to, I don't know, start on your healing journey and just write out in third person. Like, this is my story.
I think just start writing. They always said just start writing, no matter if you don't have any topic to write on, or no matter what, it'll come out. Somehow it just comes out of you.
It will. I was telling them before we started filming, how there are things that, you know, have happened in my life that I'm like, oh yeah, like I've healed from that. No big deal. Like I don't even think about it on a daily basis. But then when you start writing, I would write those things and I'm like, oh my God, like obviously I'm not over it or I'm not healed from it because I'm sitting here writing it, because your mind, you just let it kind of wander. But also going along with mind wandering and stuff, when I was on the plane home, it was a very long ride home. And there were times where, like, you know, I couldn't sleep because, like, maybe their baby's crying, or, like, you know, I couldn't focus, so I couldn't read. And so I would just put on my, like, sleep mask and my earplugs in, and I would just let my mind wander and visualize anything. And, like, it's almost like kind of being a kid again, just imagining things. And it was really nice, because I feel like at home, too, we don't allow ourselves the time to do that, like with meditating. But
Yeah.
Let's bring back daydreaming.
yes.
I agree. We're always so focused on like our brain has to be doing something, whether I have to be on my phone, I have to be watching something, I have to be on the phone having a conversation with somebody. Like I cannot sit still for one moment. And you don't realize how important sitting still with yourself is.
Even getting a massage, I'm thinking, like, to do everything that I have to do, my work, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then halfway through, maybe I'm starting to relax, and then it's over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It is. But sitting with yourself is hard, because then you're forced to think about things. Like before I even left, I caught myself, I'd be washing my face and I'm like, no, I can't even just like put my face in the water, but that, and like, or like in the shower, like you have to have music on or a podcast, or like even when I'm like doing my skincare, I'm scrolling through TikTok. Like I just can't be alone with my thoughts. Or even when you're in the car driving, you call a friend, because you're not going to be alone with your thoughts or sit in silence.
Scary.
It is, but also like you have to do that. You have to face yourself.
Yeah.
That's a trend recently of being in a flight with, like, not even looking at a book or a movie or whatever. It's just like sitting there. Haven't you seen that? Or am I on the TikTok? Or I'm on the Instagram. You're on the TikTok. Sorry.
That's right.
Maybe it's on Instagram.
I actually I was talking to one of the friends I made, and I was talking about how long my flight was, and she was like, are you going to buy Wi-Fi so you can still like communicate with people? And I was like, no. Like, is it kind of scary being detached from the entire world for, you know, like 15 hours? Yeah, because in my mind, I'm like, you know, what if there's an emergency? But also, it's nice to just be detached and to not have your phone dinging, and like you just are completely by yourself.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry like to look at it. You can just put it down and you know nothing is there when you pick it up.
And it's
That's
so amazing.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm looking through my notes to see if there's anything else, and just a couple things that stand out that I need to remind myself of. But be open to possibilities and invitations, because you don't know where it'll go. So like if you're thinking, oh, this is my goal, this is what I'm trying to be, this is what I want my life to look at or to look like, and yet you're saying no to potential opportunities that might lead you there, say yes, because you don't know what's going to happen from it.
Absolutely.
And I think just being intentional is the biggest thing. And well, I don't know if you can hear that.
Midwest.
You definitely can hear that.
Hold on. Pause.
Pause for effect.
Yeah. So I have, what do you want in the end? Don't focus on how you're going to get it. And I feel like we do that a lot with goals as well. Like, this is exactly how I want it to happen. And I think it's good to have an overarching, like, hey, this is how I want to end up, or this is the feeling I want to encapsulate years from now. But you don't know exactly how it's going to happen. So set a little bit of it up for the unknown, and don't put the universe on a leash because you don't know what's going to happen. And be realistic, hold your vision, watch out for the subconscious negativity and doubt, because that's huge. And that comes with yourself and your ego, because your ego wants to protect you. Even though you think like, oh no, like I have my best interest at heart, like your ego wants you to stay safe. It doesn't want you to go outside of the box.
And that's where fear comes in too.
And that's where fear comes in.
And that's when you have to be self-aware enough to decipher the difference between your ego and fear and what you truly want.
Yes.
Because if you can't tell the difference, then you're never gonna do anything.
Yeah, because your ego is gonna be like, no, maybe you should stay. Maybe this is safer. Maybe you should just do this. You know, blah blah blah. And that's because it wants you to stay safe and comfortable.
And then in 20 years, you look back and you're like, shit, I should have done that.
Exactly.
Yes. So take a risk. Say yes.
Yeah.
This makes me like feel so fired up.
I
really
know.
love this so much.
I can't even describe. This episode is making me feel like I have no words.
I love it.
This is like probably the best episode we have ever put out there.
This is like, I feel so like in tune with this episode. But there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about too. One thing that we learned too was identifying your triggers and taking responsibility for them, because it is not other people's responsibility to make you feel a certain way. You choose how you respond to people, and other people don't know your triggers. So that's your responsibility to identify them and not to blame other people for making you feel a certain type of way. And
Stop.
That's huge.
Can you stop?
no, it's actually very difficult.
That's really
And
hard.
actually, so one of my closest friends on this trip that I made, and this is just how like honest like all the girls are, and I love it. But we were talking about triggers one day, and we were supposed to write down something like, you know, has something triggered you so like thus far in this trip, and like if so, like write it down, like what are you gonna do about it, whatever. And they were like, you don't have to share it. But one of my friends, she did share it, and I was one of her triggers. And I know, but she was like, I just feel like I have to tell you. And basically she just, it was like I had triggered her feeling left out, because like growing up in life, you know, she always felt left out of things. And it was because we had like talked about going to lunch one day, and then I'm like, oh, like, no, I'm going to go surfing instead. And I didn't end up going surfing actually. But anyway, she came up to me, and it's just, again, that vulnerability of being like, hey, like, this is how you made me feel. Wow. It wasn't like a accusatory or like confrontational thing at all. It was just a very open and honest thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, it wasn't intentional at all. But she's like, no, I'm not. Like, you didn't know. But I just wanted to be open with you. And so, yeah, it was really powerful of her to come up to me after knowing me for like 2 or 3 days and to just be very open and vulnerable with me about her triggers, because obviously I didn't know. But yeah, just taking that away in life of like, people don't know your triggers, so it's not their fault if you're offended by something too. So it's your responsibility to know your triggers and then to take responsibility for them and learn how to cope with them and not blame other people for making you feel a certain way, because that's your responsibility.
It's a big life lesson.
Yeah.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
It's really hard.
That's going to be my exact words.
It is hard, but I think once you do too, then you're just not going to get offended by people. Like, honestly, it's really hard for me to get offended, because
Just don't take it personally, kind of thing.
no, because people don't know. But anyway, we've talked for quite a while.
I think this is a good episode, though. Hopefully you've
Yeah.
gotten a lot out of it.
There's no possible way that you haven't, because I have got so much.
And we could probably keep talking about this for like hours, but we should probably cut it off at a certain point.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, there are a lot of things that you can do at home to I don't know, just be more in tune with yourself and be more self-aware, or start your healing journey, because everybody's got something that they can heal from too. Some past trauma, something that they don't like about themselves. But through scripting, writing the person that you want to be, being delusional, meditating. Everybody needs to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, write your affirmations on your mirror in lipstick, or just put it up in your car, do something, or put it on your lock screen so that you see it every single day. But just don't let people take your energy away. Protect your energy at all costs.
I love that.
I do too. Go
Yep.
all in on yourself.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's all you have.
Yeah. No, I agree. And no matter if you're just starting out on your healing journey and you have no idea about any of this, if this is all totally new to you, I think we should do more episodes on these topics in general and kind of give examples or whatever. But I think this is a really good recap of your trip. We're so happy you're back.
Yeah. Ecstatic.
And we're so
Glad to
happy
be
for
back.
Christy to experience this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do
next
feel
year.
like I'm the little guinea pig because you guys have both been now, and like I'm taking away so much from you guys right now. So I almost feel like I'm a member of like the audience listening too, but I get to listen and be here right with you in the moment, and I love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
But also, like, we're not telling you too much so that you can still go with an open mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
You're still going to get what you need out of it.
Yeah. That's what
Going
I'm
by
for.
yourself.
For
it's an investment in yourself, truly. But one that everybody should take if they're able.
Yep.
So we'll actually leave the details of the retreat down below.
Yeah.
If you're interested. Or just following the page because it's Mindspo Retreats, but they just post really good content too.
Mm-hmm.
Just
They have a
inspirational.
Manifesty app
Yep.
for manifestations. I think you might have to pay for it.
There's a free version.
There's a free
and there's
version.
meditations, like so many different types of meditations too that you can follow along. So yeah, you should download it.
Yeah.
But
And without further ado, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day,
yes,
and we'll see you on the next episode.
see you next time.
Bye.